Welcome back to Just Keep Parenting, everybody. Thanks for joining us again here, where we just think about things that can help us be better caregivers to the children that are in our care, whether it's as a parent, an aunt, a grandparent, or a teacher, right? Being able to help them with the things that kind of bother them at this portion in their life. So today we're going to talk about fears, because we've had some fears in our class this year. Fears of the potty, fears of being left alone, fears of going to see our friends at the assisted living center, fears of driving in a big van that I've never been in before. And so as I contemplated what this week's topic needed to be, I think it needs to be about fears. And I love Mr. Rogers' take at the beginning where he said, when we'd go for a walk in our neighborhood, my son was always scared of the barking dog down the street, even though there was a fence keeping the dog in. My first response was to say, oh, don't let it worry you. He can't get out. I thought it would help him if I could just show that there was no way that the dog could get out. But that just didn't help. I finally realized that it wasn't a rational fear. So now I suggest that we cross the street, and I may say something like, I know that sometimes you're scared of that dog. I'll just hold your hand. I see this way too often in the teaching world. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The fact is they are worrying about it, right? So we need to address that and say, I understand that you're worried about the barking dog, or you're worried about riding in this big car, or you're worried about these grandmas and grandpas that might touch your hair or touch your arm. We've had some good discussions with my teachers about how to alleviate that, right? Because they are going to be worried about it. That's not something that we can just say, don't worry, and they're not going to worry about it. They are worrying about it. And so thus the topic, right? During the preschool years, they're just intense feelings, right? They have lots of things going on, but they don't have the words to express it yet. So sometimes it's frustrating for us, the caregivers, as well as for those little ones who are trying to express their fears. Lots of things can be scary for them, right? Things that are real and imaginary. And like all of us, they have their inner dreams. Mr. Rogers goes on to say, children are most often afraid of things that actually do what they themselves are trying not to do. So, for instance, when children are trying to master the urge to bite, they can become very frightened of things that represent biting, like barking dogs, alligator puppets with big teeth, even pliers, nutcrackers, or still pictures of wild animals in a book. Such fears might also grow out of children's struggle with their own angry feelings at their parents for making rules and setting limits, paying more attention to a new baby than to them, which we've talked about, or for not giving them something they really want. Children can be afraid of getting too angry at their parents because they wonder if maybe their anger could result in losing their parents' love, and that would be devastating. They sometimes project those angry feelings onto some outside thing, a dog, a tiger, a vacuum cleaner, a toilet drain, and then they fear that the very angry thing just might destroy them. Most fears like that tend to calm over time, especially as children realize that a parent can be both loving and angry, and that they themselves can have both loving and angry feelings toward their parents. So, pretty typical, right? Pretty normal. It's a developmentally appropriate feeling. It's a developmentally appropriate time on the continuum for them to be doing this, right? We sometimes call the preschool years the magic years because children think that things happen by magic. And they don't know yet the difference between what's real and what's pretend. So sometimes they'll have friends that they talk to. Sometimes I'll hear the kids talking. I'm like, who are you talking to today? And they're like, this is my friend so-and-so. And he doesn't think that. I'm like, oh, well, ask him about this, right? And so we pretend along with them. If this continues, as they get to be 7 and 8, then we need to start thinking, maybe we need to talk to somebody about this. But it's very magical at this time. They don't understand how machines work, right? Compared to how bodies work. So they might think that things like vacuum cleaners, lawnmowers, and heavy construction equipment have lives of their own and could uncontrollably gobble up everything, even children, right? They're worried that if their doll's arms fall off, that their arms might fall off too. And so mothers look different, right? If you get a new hairstyle, or if you get a new pair of glasses, sometimes the kids are a little bit unwilling to come to you because you look different. One of the most important ways to work on such fears, right, is through their play. We've talked a lot about the importance of play in children's lives. When children play about something that's scary for them, they are in charge. They don't have to feel small, helpless, and scared. We just finished dramatic play, which was a doctor's office, because many of the children are getting their kindergarten shots. And so having a place where they can play with x-rays, where they can play with immunizations, where they can play with those things, whether it's on their own body or on bodies of dolls. It was a 2-week great experience for those kids who needed to go there. Some of the kids are beyond that, but some of those kids needed to be able to play with that experience. So how do we as caregivers and parents help children feel safe, right? Because fears can keep children up at night, which keep us up at night, right? Fears can also keep children from doing dangerous things. But we don't want the children to develop irrational fears and hold them back from doing healthy things, sleeping well, and making friends. So part of our job as parents and caregivers, right, is to help our children feel safe and secure. Many times I'll say to the children, my job is, I know, is to keep us safe, right? So they know that that's what my job is. As we talk through conflict resolution, my job is to keep both of you safe. I know, Miss Story, I know, but sometimes she makes me so mad, right? Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to figure out some tools that we can use and some strategies that we can use so that when you get mad, you don't hit her anymore, because that's not keeping her body safe. We talked about in one of my night classes that there's 3 rules in a classroom. We keep our body safe, we keep other bodies safe, and we keep the classroom safe. We don't have a whole lot. We don't have many other rules other than just those 3 things, because that encompasses so much of what we need. So, I love how he says, sometimes it can be very frightening to try to explain to a frightened child that a monster or witch or some other imaginary thing isn't real. We adults have already learned that, but our children are just beginning to learn that. All right, so he gives some helpful hints, as he always does, which I love. The first one, it can help children to know they're not alone in being afraid. Let your child know that many children, even some adults, are afraid of things, even if they don't show it. Number 2, listen with care when your child tells you what he or she is afraid of. It doesn't help to tease or to say, there's nothing to be scared of. Fears are real to children. It's important not to discount their feelings. Number 3, you might want to say something like, there really aren't any tigers out there, but I understand that you're scared and I'll be here to keep you safe. With reassurance like that, your child may feel strong enough to deal with the fearsome tiger and eventually tame it. Number 4, it's wise to stay away from things that scare your child. You could put away a toy or a book that your child finds frightening and keep the television off if you know there's something scary in the news or other programs. Number 5, try not to force your child to do something that is scary. Forcing can make children even more afraid. Children need adults' patient help until they can get over their fear. Number 6, give your child something to do, like yelling boom when the thunder sounds, or turning on a nightlight or a flashlight when the bedroom feels too dark. Even pressing the button to turn off a television show when it gets too scary can give your child a sense of power over their fear. I love that. All you have to do is turn it off. All you have to do is turn it on, right, for a light. All you have to do is say, boom. I love those tools that we're giving to children so that they can handle their fears. The next one, it often helps your children to draw a picture or make up a story about a particular monster or a scary dream. When children can get the scary thing outside of themselves, whether in spoken word or drawn on paper, they're often better able to manage their fears. Getting some distance from the fear makes it easier for children to have some control over it, so that doesn't seem to control them. Number 8, ask a librarian for books that can help children deal with their fears. Your child may be able to hear about something scary if it's in a book, and if you are nearby. Number 9, some families give their children a spray bottle with water as monster spray, or put a sign on the door that says no monsters allowed. But it comes with a caveat. He says, That may seem to work in the short term because children are self-trusting and willing to believe the fantasy. But what it could say to them is that their parents too think that monsters are real and that the monsters might actually be there. In the long term, we want them to know that monsters aren't real, that they are really not there. And the last one, number 10. If you're concerned that you'll transfer your own fears to your child, you could ask someone else to help in certain situations. For example, if you're fear of the dentist, right, and you need to take your child to the dentist, ask a spouse, ask a partner, ask a family member to be able to do that, even a neighbor, right, to be able to help take your child because you don't want to transfer that fear of dentists to them. So we all have fears. I remember as a child that I used to run from my grandma's house, and I was sure there was somebody following me. And so I had a special song that I would sing when I ran from grandma's house to my house, which wasn't very long, but I would sing that special song. As soon as I left grandma's screen door, I would start singing that song. So I am excited that we're going to talk about fears, that we're going to talk about and be more aware of children's fears and not just discount them and say, oh, you don't need to worry about that. It's not scary. It is scary to them. So as we're patient with them, as we help them work through, as we give them tools and strategies to not be so scared, that's when we're winning. So just keep parenting, everybody. Thanks for joining today.